Welcome to Toyota Soccer Center in Frisco, Texas for Generation Adidas Cup action. It is day 2 of the premier youth soccer tournament in North America. Major League Soccer teams against a host of international teams looking for youth supremacy. I'm David Gosch, joined by Bobby Warshaw for this one here at Field 4, the final game of the Premier Division, the lower division in this tournament of day 2. A lot of things been moved around, a lot of chaos, but for these two teams, a massive game coming up. Columbus Crew SC, a 1-0 win in their first game, sitting in second place in the group, and Matsumoto Yamaga FC out of Nagano, Japan, trying to get back after a pacing by the Seattle Sounders in the first round. Bobby, you're at a tournament like this, day 1 finishes, you sit around in the hotel, you watch tape, you think about all the mistakes you made. Day 2, what are these players going to do? How are these coaches going to try and have them come out?
Yeah, David, day 2 is often the most important day at these tournaments when there's 3 games in a group. Because the first one, you have all that adrenaline, you're all excited, you've been waiting for it for an entire year. The third game, you know what you have to do to win the group on that day. So it's often day 2 that teams get complacent or they lack focus, or they don't have the energy. So it's on this day when you can really make a big improvement in your standings.
For Columbus Crew SC, I mentioned a 1-0 win over the Revolution, some changes to the starting lineup. Mitchell Hansen in at goal. Noah Hall, a US U16 international, gets the start at right back. Right to left, Daniel Coons, Nick Stone, and Anthony Samways. At the holding midfield roles, Elton Chifamba and Kurt Lemkool. And a change in the attacking 3 up front. Ethan O'Brien at the number 10 to his right. Tyler Wolf to his left. Parker Crowell. And up top, Philip Horton, who had the lone goal in that first game, returns as the center forward.
David, a few changes today from Columbus Crew. It's a tough decision for the coaching staff to make with the game tomorrow now due to the rain on Tuesday. They've decided to drop a couple of their key players, perhaps because Matsumoto had such a tough game when they won. They feel the Columbus Crew can get a result today. But it's an opportunity for these new players to step in and make their case that they can play a larger role in the coming games later in the week.
On the flip side for Matsumoto Yamaga, they came out in the last game in a 4-3-3. They scored in the 3rd minute against Seattle Sounders. They then gave up 6 straight goals, 2 a minute apart in the first half, 1 at the final whistle of the first half, and then late on, they really got ripped apart. How do you readjust the team after a moment like that?
Well, the specific adjustment they made is in the first game, Matsumoto came out in what appeared to be a 4-3-3, and the team sheet today calls them a 4-4-2. And what they appear to want to do is stay more compact and block the passing lanes into the midfield. The Columbus Crew is a possession team. Amongst the teams in their division and the development academy around the United States, they try to keep the most possession or one of the most possession. So here we see already to start the game, Matsumoto dropping both their players, and it almost acts as if a 6-man midfield trying to block the lanes into the center midfielders for the Columbus Crew.
A changing goalkeeper, Shoma Kanda, coming in for this Matsumoto team. The fullbacks remain the same. Kaito Sakijima at right back and Haruko Masima at left back. Both center backs will change though. Left center back Kazunoshin Kobayashi and the right center back Asuke Takeuchi. So a change there right down the heart for this team. That 4-man midfield, as we mentioned, at right midfield, Ryoma Saito, who came off the bench in the last game. Issa Tanaka in central midfield along Soch Tekuchi, who got the start in the last game as well, and Daike Higuchi, who was part of a 3-man midfield, now gets a little bit more support going out left. And up top, Yusei Suzuki at 1 forward, and the captain, Takayuki Tsutsi, who had the goal 3 minutes in. Bobby had 1 or 2 other half chances in the last game, the number 19 up top with the armband, but just couldn't get a lot of service.
No, we couldn't. Once Seattle Sounders got that first goal 2 days ago, the floodgates really started to open. The Sounders built confidence, and Matsumoto could never change the tide after that.
Matsumoto Yamaga, their first team playing in the Japanese 2nd division. They've got 1 player currently with the Japanese youth national team set up in Australia, known as one of the better academies in Japan. And this team, never playing in the United States, never playing an American team before, came out and were really, it looked like cruising early on. And once they got down, they got shell shock. Chance coming for Crew SC. A shot there right onto the hands by Philip Horton. And it'll be a corner kick now for Columbus. The wind not as strong as it was day 1, but it is blowing left to right. So from behind the Matsumoto goal down the field. Corner kick service played in at the near post, headed away. Columbus tries to keep it in and finally cleared. A little bit of a chase put on there. Some light pressure from Saito.
And David, we talk about the loss that Matsumoto took to the Seattle Sounders 6-1. And this is the kind of moment with 16 and 17-year-old kids when obviously you don't want to lose like that. For the coaching staff, though, they will undoubtedly see it as an opportunity. You always want to see how younger players respond mentally. Can they keep their confidence? Can they keep belief in their ability?
Noor Ali, the head coach for Matsumoto from Singapore. This club has an exchange program with a Singapore club. So they send coaches there and receive coaches. And of course, this team not happy with the way the game ended. Seattle scored 2 goals in the final 4 minutes of the games. Matsumoto found their feet a little bit at 4-1.
And the Sounders were very good, too.
Yeah, Azriel Gonzalez, who already signed a pro contract, and Ray Serrano, 2 stars. Gonzalez, 2 goals, Serrano a goal, and Marlon Vargas 2 assists. This one's clipped in. Headed away by Coons. Second ball flicked on. Columbus trying to clear their lines. Matsumoto battling to keep it in the attacking third. Finally the big foot there from Stone. And that'll be a throw-in deep in the half. Crowell trying to get around the back there of Sekijima. Bobby, for a young player who didn't play in the first game, we mentioned a number of changes. How do you stay mentally prepared? What do you watch from the first games? Because this is a higher level of competition than these players are used to playing in on average.
Even for younger players, just like for professionals, it's hard to come off the bench in a second game. It's hard to feel like a member of the first team, a little less so. You're still naive. You still don't know the difference that much. But to get up to the speed of the game and to keep the confidence is always difficult.
Massima to play it in with the left foot. Puts it in a dangerous area, but it goes over everyone's head.
And David, what we saw there is the wind took that ball. As we said, the wind isn't as strong today, but it is at the backs of Matsumoto, meaning the Columbus Crew are playing into the wind. And we saw a lot of teams on day one, if you had the wind at your back, as Matsumoto does right now, that they pressured the team. They tried to put a high press and make it tough to play out. Matsumoto chose not to do that on day one against the Sounders, and they're choosing not to do it again today.
Daniel Coons plays that ball into the feet of O'Brien. Now up top for Horton, who goes wide. Wolf trying to clip it in, can't find a teammate. Tyler Wolf playing out at right midfield, son of current Crew SC assistant coach Josh Wolf, who scored a goal or 2 for the U.S. national team. Chifamba with the cross, everyone missing it, and now Samway's coming forward. Crew SC will knock it back and keep possession.
For those not familiar with the Columbus Crew organization, from top to bottom, they're possession-based. Greg Berhalter, head coach of the first team, really likes his squad to keep the ball on the ground, to build out of the back, to try and create their scoring opportunities through possession and interchanging play. And we expect to see the same from the under-17 team today. It's something they've tried to implement from top to bottom in their club.
What do you make of that? Because you want players to be ready to go into the first team, but does that style potentially fit the abilities of all your best players at all these ages?
There's definitely good parts and bad parts to it. You definitely do limit the different styles the players are exposed to, and if you ever do want to adjust, you get a new head coach that likes to play a new style at the top, it's difficult. But in terms of creating a pathway for 17, 18-year-olds to get to the first team, it's always going to be difficult to adjust to the speed of the play. It's always going to be difficult to adjust to the new talent level. But if you can make certain decisions as easy as possible, the same ones they've made since they were 14, 15 years old, it's going to be easier to adjust to be a first-team player.
When you played before there was a robust youth academy setup, was there a different youth to professional style? Because pro teams play a range of formations and systems. Was there a large difference between the way every youth team played and the way the pro game was?
Absolutely. There was no transition pathway. You played your system, whatever youth team and whatever your youth coach decided.
Everyone played 4-4-2?
Everyone played something different, and then you went to the professional ranks, and you just played what they told you to play. And sometimes maybe the professional coach would check what youth team you played for, check what college you played for, and try to align the systems. But there wasn't this thought of trying to make everything link together and create this coherent pathway for youth players to turn professional.
And you see it in this tournament. Atlanta United clearly trying to play the way that their first team plays. NYCFC playing a very possession-based style as well. Good work from Samways. Now down the left channel for Columbus, laid back by O'Brien. Crowell battling. He's got 3 white jerseys around him. Still gets a cross away. Scampered out. O'Brien can't get through that last tackle, and now a chance for Matsumoto to counter.
Well done by Lemkel, and that's something we'll see from him often today. A lot of defensive midfielders at the youth level are more box-to-box or cover ground as defensive midfielders, but Lemkel is a true 6 who will sit in front of that back 4, win loose balls, and protect his center backs, and he showed it right there by winning that ball back.
Columbus still looking for that breakthrough. They scored just after halftime, in the first leg, in the first game against the Revs. In the 57th minute, these are 70-minute games, so 35-minute halves for these teams. 5 substitutes allowed, and as we mentioned, there was supposed to be 1 day off between every set of games, but because of inclement weather coming on Tuesday, the last set of games have been moved up to tomorrow. So we will have a full slate of games here today. We've got 2 more streams coming up for you later on, NYCFC versus Real Madrid, and then the hosts, FC Dallas, facing off against a Pachuca team that they battled down in Mexico in a championship game a few months ago, and they'll do it here in front of their home fans. And then we've got a whole host of games coming up for you tomorrow once again. Bobby, for these players, but also for these coaches, how do you manage that?
We saw here, the biggest decision is, do you rotate your players? Do you feel like they need a physical rest? But not just a physical rest, David. At this age, it's about the mental rest, too. Can players at 16, 17 get up to heightened focus and heightened intensity every single day? So the first is just rotation, and the second is talking to them and making sure you address it early.
There'll be a corner kick coming in here from Matsumoto. Ball played in. It bounces at the far post. A chance here. There's the center back there. Takeuchi's shot was blocked, and now Crowell chasing the other way. Stone heading back to his own goal there, makes the mistake. Tatsui couldn't take advantage, and into the safe hands of Hansen.
The early parts of this game are a little slow, a little sluggish from both sides, and that's the kind of game that's going to go into Matsumoto's hands. Japanese teams want to play slower, more methodical games. Generally, American teams want a little faster pace, a little more up-tempo. So we'll have to see the next few minutes of this game whether the speed intensity picks up, because that should help Matsumoto if it stays slow.
Matsumoto in the first game, they sat deep with numbers and tried to protect, but Bobby, when they were in possession, especially when they were under any bit of pressure, they weren't clean enough to keep that ball. And so it just felt like every time they made a move to break out, all of a sudden the ball was coming back down the other way.
Exactly, and if your ethos as a team is to be tidy on the ball, and then you're not clean, you're not keeping possession, you're going to be in trouble, and that's what we saw.
Crowell now charging up the left wing. Sakijima behind him in chase. Crowell looking for a teammate. Horton was on the ground. It was blocked away by the center back. Matsumoto is able to keep this ball in play.
Fantastic positioning by Samways to read where that ball was going to go and to proactively be in the right spot.
How tough is it to mark space rather than players?
It's very tough.
Or is it easier?
No, it's tougher to try and read the play. It's always easier to see a man and step to the man. But a lot of times it's not where the man is, it's where he's going to be, or it's not where the ball is, it's where it's going to be. So to read those in advance is always much tougher.
In this Crew SC system, what's the coaching, what's the philosophy for the back line when in possession? Are the fullbacks consistently cheating? Are the center backs trying to take space and move into the attacking half?
When you're a possession team, as the Columbus Crew organization is, you always have to take a proactive stance defensively, because when you're in possession, you have numbers around the ball, and you throw numbers forward to get around the ball, which means if you lose it, you don't have numbers back, and if you don't win it back right away, you're going to be down numbers on the counterattack. So you always have to have your defenders and your defensive midfielders step forward and find players in space early so they're in a good position to win the ball back quickly. So you see Matsumoto's defensive shape right now, a 4-4-2, with the 2 dropped deep into their own half. Very similar to what you see Diego Simeone do with Atletico Madrid. The main concept is to block lanes into the Columbus attackers, both the attacking midfielders and the forwards, and then do this. You win the ball and you get on the break.
Chance now for Matsumoto charging forward. That cross blocked off the foot of Saito.
Those are the moments Matsumoto really needs to be sharp. When they do get on the counter, which is their game plan today, they have to take advantage of it.
In a tournament setting, you lose 6-1, the goal differential stands there. How do you make sure a team just plays a normal game, goes out, tries to get the win, doesn't try and make it all up?
I mean, this is why coaches are so important.
Headed here on goal. Best look of the game so far for Tsutsi, who had the goal in the first one against the Sounders.
Nice bend on that cross, making it hard for the defenders to attack. And well up by Tsutsi to get to that header.
I don't think it's any coincidence that Sekijima, the right back, and Masima, the left back, were the two players on that back five that stayed in the game. I thought both of them tried to push forward when they could, were good 1v1 defensively. It was when the Sounders cut infield that the problems really started to arise.
Yeah, which makes sense why they changed those two center backs to just give it a different look more than anything. Sometimes maybe you don't know what to expect against a Major League Soccer teams, and they just want a different style from their center backs.
Chance here for Crew SC in the box. Player goes down, it stays alive, and O'Brien puts it in.
That all started with the movement from the right winger Wolf, taking the ball infield, playing a gorgeous 1-2 with Horton. Great hold-up play by the center striker, and then such composure by the 15-year-old Wolf on the ball. Didn't panic, didn't try and rush the shot, lifted his head, and saw the player to his left. So well done by the Columbus Crew.
14th minute goal here for Ethan O'Brien, getting the start today. They're coming off the bench in the last game, and what a moment for that young playmaker. What a moment for this Columbus Crew SC team. They scored late on. They had to really battle back and forth. Now a chance to dictate the tempo of this game.
Exactly. Columbus Crew is the kind of team you don't want to get down to. So if you do get down to them, their possession play gets even harder to combat.
Matsumoto Yamaga took an early lead against the Sounders. They were not able to protect that. Now they'll have to prove that they can come from behind in this one early on. Ball over the top. Two Matsumoto players collide with each other, the center forward and the right midfielder making the same run there, Bobby.
I'm surprised to see Matsumoto try and play that direct. Generally, Japanese teams will want to keep the ball on the ground, want to move through you. Perhaps Matsumoto feels the need against an American club to try and play a similar style and match them at their own game, but it doesn't appear to be the right approach.
Right now, it's been easy sledding so far for Crew SC. The one dangerous chance for Tsutsi off that cross. This Columbus Crew SC squad, of course, getting that edict from Greg Berhalter up at the top. His son, Sebastian, a part of this team, started in the first game on the bench here today, as is two other U.S. Youth Internationals, two of the bigger stars on this team in Monis, as well as Vargas.
A key juncture of the game here for the Crew, David. They've got the 1-0 lead, and you can see the body language of Matsumoto just feeling down after their big loss, now giving up the goal. But that can change. Attitude and belief can change throughout a game, so it's important when you do have a team feeling down on themselves, you take advantage, that you get the second goal and put them away. This is the kind of thing that young players need to feel in a game. They need to feel the urgency that when you have a team down, that you take full advantage, because soccer games have ebbs and flows. So when it's in your favor, you need to get the goals and put a team away.
Coons into the feet here of Lemkool. Lemkool playing that Will Trapp role here for this team, sitting deep, trying to dictate the play out of that deep midfield position.
You've already seen him hit some Will Trapp-esque diagonals to the left side to Samways.
Tsutsi now on the ball. Up that left wing, but can't get past Nick Stone. And now Wolf bringing it back the other way. Bobby, you had played with anyone whose dads were big-time players or professional players?
I played with Freddie Adu's little brother.
Fro.
Does that count?
Yeah, probably.
Who is also about 3 years younger than us.
Maybe not exactly, but it's got to be tough being raised by someone who's played at the highest level. The expectations that you pick up having that last name. Of course, Wolf and Berhalter both in this team, but we see it across the board. Scott Seeley, a great goal scorer for FC Dallas. His son is here.
Former teammate of mine.
That's the first thing I should have said. I apologize for going there second, Bobby.
Fantastic 6v6 player in training.
We hope his son ends up being more than that. David Ferreira's son, Of course, a part of the FC Dallas youth teams that's now on a homegrown contract. We've seen Wilmer Cabrera's kids here as well. A number of big-name players. That's got to be tough.
Living up to your father's.
Yeah, in the exact same field. I mean, that's why I'm not a computer programmer, obviously.
It's also an advantage. We should acknowledge that. That your dad can tell you the right way to touch a ball and to play the game.
Free kick coming here. I don't think Michael Bradley would disagree with you. Left-footed shot right on the hands there of Hansen. It was Take Uchi curling that one with his left foot.
I like Hansen getting that out of his hands quickly, trying to get the game going again.
Now, if you're a player at this age, in this setting, is it too early to say these kids are looking at it and saying, you know, Zach Steffen's a pretty young goalkeeper. Will Trapp's a young player. It's hard maybe to break into those positions. You're not thinking about that.
Oh, no. All these kids think they're going to end up at Manchester United one day. And that's the beauty of it. When you're young, you're naive. You can just enjoy the moment.
Dangerous moment here. Stone turns away from pressure.
It's also important to note that first teams change so quickly so often. Zach Steffen is the first team goalkeeper right now, but he could be a different team. He could be at Europe in 6 months. And the truth is, as a professional player, as you hope to become a professional player, David, if you think about those things, you just drive yourself crazy. There's so many things with contract negotiations and squad rotation and players in your position, both in your team and around the world, that if you think about it too much, you'd never be able to get out of bed in the morning.
Which is definitely part of these coaches' jobs. We've talked to a number of the coaches here about what they have to do in balancing these young players, teaching them, pushing them, trying to keep them motivated while keep them sane at the same time. It's one of the more interesting jobs, I would say, in the world of soccer is coaching players at this, on the verge of being a professional level. For many clubs, the U17 level is the highest youth team. It's played short. Columbus, all 11 players back to defend. Now it's curled in. Sutsi is offside. Bobby, we talked about those big 5 minutes after the goal. Columbus Crew SC giving up a half chance or two, but for the most part, it seems like they've stayed in control.
They really have, and at this point, though, and as I said earlier, David, sometimes you can't just stay in control when you're in control. You've got to take advantage of those moments. Because at some point in this game, or if it's not this game, in future games when they have control, they're going to lose it. And then what happens is you go look back on the game and you say, we were the better team for a large portion. We didn't score our chances when we had control. The other team was a better team for large portions, and they did score their chances, and that was the difference.
We saw that a lot in day one. NYCFC struggling to finish. We saw Houston having good moments against Monterrey. Great footwork there, deep in the corner from our goal scorer, O'Brien. And he picks up a free kick.
He's feeling confident right now, huh?
He's got the juices goal in. You're playing the number 10. You keep this team moving.
I like how we waited right near the ball there to try and get the quick restart. Nobody from Matsumoto stepped out. There's 2 or 3 Columbus Crew players who are open right around the ball. O'Brien recognized that. It's that kind of moment that's just as important scoring the goal in terms of development.
So Chifamba out there to take this free kick. Elton Chifamba, a 2003, most of these players. They have to be born after January 1st of 2001. The bulk of these players, though, are in that 2001 year. So some of these special young players playing up in age. Chifamba clips it in. Still alive in the box. One shot blocked, and Horton can't get to the rebound. Chifamba spent last week with the US U16 national team, playing in 2 friendlies against the LA Galaxy youth team, as well as a combination of Cholos Tijuana players that were put together to challenge that team. Bobby, you spent some time with the US youth national teams. What is the purpose of that? The coaches don't have enough time to rebuild players. They get at most 2 weeks with some of the best young players. What's the vibe in that camp, but what's the purpose of that for these young players?
I actually played for John Hackworth, who's currently coaching the U.S. under-17s. A big part of it, David, is giving players a sense of what the highest level at their age group feels like. You're not necessarily trying to teach them a lot. You're not even trying to evaluate them a ton. You're trying to give these young players a feel for what it's like to play at that next level. so that they can then take that back to train and understand how good they have to be, the standard they have to hold their teammates to. So that's the biggest part of it. Just give them a little sliver so that they can then understand what level they need to get to every day.
All right. Quick close there for Lemkool. Bobby, the residency program was a big part of the USU 17 setup, no longer in existence. How do you feel about that? What did you think of that system?
Well, that was the dream when we were kids. People would have given their kidneys to get to the residency when I was 16, 17. But it feels like it's good for the overall U.S. soccer landscape to give more of the emphasis to these clubs, to allow these kids to stay close to home and just be in a regular environment to go with their soccer education. I mean, essentially now, instead of just having one residency program, we have 20. It gets more kids involved. It allows more kids to grow.
Horton with the header past the first defender. He gets dragged down right on the top of the box. It looks like we're going to have our first yellow card of the game. Kobayashi, the center back, doing all he could to keep Horton from getting in one-on-one with the goalkeeper.
Gorgeous combination of skill and power. It's exactly what you want to see from a center striker. To take that deft touch off his head and then accelerate past the defenders and hold them off. It was a gorgeous play from Horton.
Horton, 4 goals in USDA play with this U16-17 team. And you mentioned residencies. Philadelphia Union, one of the biggest residencies in MLS, currently leading the Colorado Rapids 1-0 just off to our right. We'll get you all the scores as they come in from the first round of games here today. The Seattle Sounders in the second half with the New England Revolution. It started before this game. The other half of this group, we'll have your update when that one's finished. Horton standing over this one with the right foot. He curls the shot right on goal, and it's punched away out for a corner kick.
And, David, of the goals the Columbus Crew has scored this year so far in the Development Academy, they have gotten the highest percentage via set piece. It's clearly a point of emphasis for the team and something they hope to strike on here at GA Cup.
Chifamba going out wide once again. We saw him hit one from the left side. He's got an option if he wants to play it short and quickly in that midfield to Crowell. He does. Crowell's ball can't find a teammate. Matsumoto trying to clear their lines. A few Crew SC players putting their hand up for a handball. No call made. Crowell's cross is blocked, and it'll be another corner kick here coming for Columbus. Crew SC starting to pour on the pressure. This would be a huge second goal.
The last 2 corner kicks, they've isolated Stone at the back post, which they're doing here, and they've had O'Brien run across the near post, and the ball has come slightly bent at the near post for Krall to either try and get on goal or to flick, or O'Brien, to flick back post.
Chifamba to take once again. This one floated at the near post again, and it's headed over the defender and in. Columbus Crew SC knocking at the door, and they break through once again. Philip Horton's got his second goal of the competition.
And they ran the same pattern. This time, instead of O'Brien at the near post, it was Coons, and Horton follows. The idea is either the first person gets to it and flicks it on, but if it gets over his head, you have the next runner try and go for goal, and that's exactly what happened. It went over Coons, and Horton was able to attack it as the next runner. Gorgeous header. That's what you always tell your young strikers. Get good contact and head it down towards the goal line, and that's exactly what Horton did.
Bobby, I love a good header down into the ground. The bounce, the defender, the goalkeeper, you don't know how to react. Oh, what perfection from the young striker.
Yeah, it feels good to see, doesn't it?
Every single player tries to head it directly into the corner. Columbus Crew SC, Bobby, you said they've got to take advantage when they have the moment, when they have that momentum. Up 2-0 here. That second goal coming in the 26th minute. It's 12 minutes spaced apart, and helping this team build a little bit of a cushion. Wolf now with the shot, deflected safely into the hands of the keeper.
And there's 2 potential schools of thoughts on what the Columbus Crew should do right now. We just saw Stone try and play the long ball into Horton. And you could do that. You could feed the player who's hot. We saw Horton draw a free kick from a gorgeous touch and powerful run. Then we saw him score the goal. He's clearly confident right now. Or the Columbus Crew could keep possession and really try and deteriorate the confidence of Matsumoto by not letting them touch the ball. They've got 2 paths right now to try and get that third goal. And in the next few minutes, we'll see what the Columbus Crew go for.
And we got to point out once again, it's not as strong, but the wind at Matsumoto's back, so it will be easier for Columbus to keep the ball in the attacking third in the second half. Then this first half, Matsumoto, you have to think, really needs a goal here in these final 10 minutes to keep this one competitive going into halftime, to lift their spirits just a little bit. Something for the coach to talk to them through. Lemkool takes it short for this Crew SC squad. Coming into this one.
Fantastic combination play out of the back by the Columbus Crew. Nice to see young players feel that confident on the ball.
A flick on by Tsutsi. And intercepted in the end by Stone. This Crew SC team was 1-4-1 in the Central Region qualifying for the GA Cup. A -5 goal differential. That was good for 5th place out of the 6-team region, just ahead of the Houston Dynamo. They've come out here so far and they've played composed and confident in their first game and a half against the New England Revolution in this Matsumoto squad. Now the Crew trying to put their foot on the ball a little bit, like Bobby said. Matsumoto, you can see though, Bobby, at least defending with a higher line than they did against Seattle. Their two forwards were consistently in their own half, setting that first line of pressure.
Yeah, here we see the two strikers trying to get to the ball a little earlier and mess up the rhythm of the Columbus Crew.
Great work once again up top from Horton. He gets it wide for Samsway. A cross played in, trying to find an angle to shoot from. Laid back for Crowell. Cuts in on his right foot. Lemkool with the one-touch pass to his partner, Chifamba.
We see so many signs of this U17 Crew being similar to the first team. The wingers, Wolf and Crowell tucked in. The outside backs providing the width. Lemkool acting as the will trap, sitting in front of the back four and dictating possession and playing the occasional long ball. A lot of clubs talk about integration from top to bottom, and it's rare when we actually see it so clearly.
Would you say Crew SC is your favorite team to watch in MLS?
Right now they are, because there's been so much emphasis on big money signings in the offseason, and all of a sudden you got the Columbus Crew saying, we don't care. We believe in the system we train every single day. And it's an interesting experiment on that idea of what's more important, high money talent or team camaraderie, team cohesion, and a philosophy that we've built over a few years.
For a team with a deep philosophy, how important is the academy? How long does it take for a signing, an overseas signing or a domestic signing, to get adjusted to playing in a team that plays in a unique style?
You know who I point to for that? Alex Moyle of New York Red Bulls. Not the best player, not a player that a lot of coaches would say deserves to be a starter on their team, but he fits what the Red Bulls want to do. And you don't need your star players to be out of your academy. You need the Alex Moyles, the functional player who has been in your system for years and knows it top to bottom to just do and run the system you've built.
Wheel with a goal yesterday.
Goal and assist. Don't forget that assist.
I was getting there. Then he helped BWP get his second of the game. Columbus Crew SC getting a win against DC United at home. Acrobatic clearance there from Chifamba. Crew SC, of course, going to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, missing the playoffs the year before, hosting MLS Cup the year before that. So under Greg Berhalter, they've been one of the most competitive teams in the league year in and year out. Now, going to have to do it with a couple different names. This one's floated in. We've seen Alex Cronali coming out of this academy be a part of the first team. We've seen, of course, Will Trapp coming out of this academy be a part of the first team as well. So Columbus has used the homegrown tag a little bit so far, but all the players out here on the field hoping to be the next part of that.
You know what I like about this Columbus Crew setup right now is Lemkool is dropping deep, and a lot of times when you see a center midfielder drop in between the center backs, there's a giant gap between him and the rest of the players, but the Columbus Crew midfield and attackers are then filling in. This is Crowell getting on the ball, dropping to a center midfield position, O'Brien doing the same. There's good distance between the midfielders and defenders right now.
Lemcool will be heading to Cornell in 2 years to play his college soccer for the Big Red.
For John Smith, the Stanford soccer disciple, worked with head coach Jeremy Gunn.
It always comes back.
I always find a way.
It always comes back to Stanford. Nice and easy for Mr. Bobby Warshaw. And all Pac-12. It was the Pac-10 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say 3 times. 4 times? Was one of them academic, though, or were they all competitive?
Freshman year was second team. So are we going to count second team?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, then give
Not
me
all freshmen.
Then give me all 4 of them. Give me all 4 of them.
Wow, Bobby Warshaw was pretty good at soccer.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. Back at his old stomping grounds, the FC Dallas. Toyota Soccer Center. Toyota Stadium. O'Brien can't get on the end of that one. You were here. FC Dallas starting to build their academy. Oscar Pereira was ahead of the academy at the time. Now the head coach, Luchi Gonzalez, taking over the academy role as well. They beat Monaco 2-1 in their first game. We'll have them the end of today, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:15 local, against Pachuca, which is going to be one of the best games we see this entire tournament. 2 teams that are familiar with each other, a little bit of animosity already, and 2 teams that have everything to play for in that second game. Looks like a handball there just at the end from Saito. Saito coming off the bench in the first game gave a little bit of a jolt to that midfield, pressing a little bit higher against Seattle and giving some energy as Matsumoto really started to look out of the game at times.
A little lazy there from Lemcool, Coons, and Samways.
Sutsy here with the shot, and it goes just high.
And that's something that's going to drive the coaching staff crazy. And if we evaluate players making the transition from the youth game to the professional game, that's something that you hold them accountable for. That's something that concerns you, because at the professional level, that gets punished at a much higher rate. And that wasn't about technical ability. That was about lack of focus in a time when they feel like the game is over. They're getting close to half.
Yeah, we're in the 34th minute of play. This half about over here. The Premier Division. Day 2 of coverage. The Generation Adidas Cup Day 3 coming at you tomorrow. So stick to MLSsoccer.com for all your coverage.
As we go into halftime, David, I would expect the coaching staff to be very upset by that giveaway on the left side of the field over here, because that's what the Columbus Crew needs to focus on in the second half. They need to keep their intensity high. This happens a lot in games. When one team clearly dominates the first half, they go into halftime, they get complacent, they don't change anything, and the team that was losing goes into halftime angry, fired up, and they make an adjustment, and they come out in the second half on top because the winning team didn't come out of halftime prepared. So expect the Columbus Crew coaching staff to be happy with the first half, but to make a statement about that giveaway to fire their team up coming into the next 35 minutes.
Well, you see the goals. Welcome back for the second half here between Columbus Crew SC and Matsumoto Yamaga out of Japan. Second day of coverage. Group A, the Premier Division. Crew SC leading 2-0. Goals in the 14th minute by Ethan O'Brien and the 26th minute, Philip Horton with his second goal of the competition. David Goss and Bobby Warsaw alongside Field 4 here at the Toyota Soccer Center as we close out the first afternoon of coverage here. And we get ready for the Champions Division later on, and then still 2 more games in the Premier Division later tonight at 7:30. Bobby, Columbus looking comfortable in that first half. They get the goal in the 14th minute. They controlled possession most of the game. And then Horton with a goal off a corner kick late in that first half. How do they come out and try and handle these opening 5 minutes?
At this point for the Columbus Crew, it's all mental. It's all about keeping their intensity. Because as you get older and as you get into the professional ranks, when jobs are kept or lost based off winning or losing, it always hurts to lose. But to lose a game like this when you're so in control would be devastating. So at this point, it's about staying heightened intensity and focus and seeing out the result.
And we do have to mention, this is a big game for these young players trying to earn more minutes and more time. The last day of games will be tomorrow. Because of weather, it was moved up. As Matsumoto gets to the top of the box. Can't find that final opening, and this ball clipped in will run long. New England Revolution fell to Seattle Sounders 3-1 in the other Group A game. So currently, Seattle Sounders a +7 goal differential in this group and 2 wins at 6 points. Columbus Crew SC, they won their first game 1-0, so they're currently sitting, if this game were to hold, at 6 points as well, but a +3 goal differential. They'd have to make that all up head-to-head against Seattle. Seattle did not start Azriel Gonzalez and Ray Serrano in this game, 2 of their stars, to keep them fresh for tomorrow. So Columbus, are you talking about that with your players? Or are you trying to stick in this moment?
Absolutely. I actually totally changed what I said in that first one, David. I was wrong. This isn't about seeing out this result. I didn't factor in the goal differential. They need to go get goals. Considering Seattle Sounders got a +5 off this opponent, they need to go do similar. They only beat New England Revolution 1-0, so the Sounders have a +1 on them in that game. So the Columbus Crew wants to go get 3-4 more goals so that they can go to that last game and only draw instead of having to beat the Sounders.
How much do you worry that taking you out of your game, though? Out of the way you play soccer?
Well, certainly that's a balance. There's always a balance in soccer, and David, it's a good point. It's something you have to think about. But that's part of the game, and that's what makes this game beautiful in its complexities, is that you've got to go for the goals but also not lose your identity in doing so.
Columbus has Aiden Morris on the bench, a USU 16 international who played with the USU 18s last month. He has been a star for them, 3 goals in USDA play already. And as I mentioned off the top, they also have Sebastian Berhalter on the bench, and another U.S. Youth International, and Jose Rivas, who was with that same U18 squad. And those players we figured were being saved for the last day, but at some point you have to think those players come in late on. We saw what Seattle did in the final 10 minutes. Their subs, as Matsumoto dropped their head and started to scramble a little bit more. Columbus might have to do something similar.
Certainly, and what we might see today is that these Columbus Crew starters, Berhalter and Morris, get the last 15 to 20 minutes. Because you want to rest them, but you also don't want them to get rusty for that final game. So we often see it with the first team as well, where you bring in the starters for the last 15, 20 minutes almost to replicate what a training session would be on that given day, 2 days before a game. So look for Berhalter and Morris to get into this game with 15, 20 minutes left.
And as we said, the game's moved up to tomorrow. They'll then have 2 days off before the teams that win their group will go into the semifinals, all 4 group winners, both in the Premier and Champions Division, and then everyone else will play the teams of equal standing across the group, so there's merit to get second place and third place in these groups, because then you play a higher level opponent across the other groups. And Bobby, that's a huge part of just being here, is playing one, new opposition for teams that mainly play regional, and 2, playing the best quality opponent you can.
Certainly. So basically what we're saying is that there's still a lot to play for as they go in on goal.
Crowell there cuts back. It's finally swept away in the end.
we're not just selling you if you're watching here on YouTube to keep watching. They do actually have a ton to play for in the second half, with the Columbus Crew trying to get goals to get the goal differential to win the group, and Matsumoto to try and get a decent placement going into the last games.
We, of course, still have 2 more streams coming for you later today, as well as a host of games. And this one looks like it's going to roll out for a corner kick.
Wolf has that touch and acceleration of his dad. Taking the ball and bringing it back across his body on the first touch was a trademark of his father, and something they've clearly worked on in the living room a little bit.
His dad scored arguably one of the biggest goals in U.S. national team history, coming into the original Dos a 0 in 2001, and then, of course, helped the team in the 2002 World Cup to their best ever finish, a quarterfinal. He played over in Germany, England, but the bulk of his career in Major League Soccer. Ended up, Bobby, really a true number 9 at the end of his career, but started out as that second forward pace off the bench for the U.S. national team.
I liked him as a winger coming from the wide area, too. As a young player, he was full of flair and pace, and he could do so much to help a team either starting or off the bench.
It's interesting to watch these players, and you watch players that are so good in their position, and you think about at that next level where they're actually going to have to play and where they're going to get opportunities. And it's funny to look at U.S. U20 international teams and U.S. 17 teams, and then you look at a guy like Jonathan Spector, who was a center forward, who ends up being a great center back for the rest of his career.
Exactly, and especially if we look at MLS, something we have to be honest about is a lot of these teams are buying players for $2, $5, $15 million. So you don't have to just be a good academy player. You've got to be better than the player they can buy for $5 million in the world market.
Bobby here lives his life on Barco watch, of course. That $15 million for Ezequiel Barco. We spoke with Tony Annan, the youth academy coach, about that signing, what it means for his players, what it means for his job. And these coaches know, but they know that their job is to produce the best players they possibly can. It looks like Chifamba's going to be over this free kick once again.
Keep an eye on Horton. He's got 2 Matsumoto players on him right now. Hall, once again, starting on the back post, does not have one immediately on him. Will be able to start his run unimpeded.
Chifamba curls it in to the top of the 6. It's flicked on, it looked like, by a defender, so it'll be out for a corner kick. And as we mentioned in the first half, Bobby, the wind pulling those free kicks just a little bit.
And here expect to see the same corner kick that Columbus Crew had so much success on. Hall starting at the back post. Horton and O'Brien about to dash at the near post. O'Brien going first, either flick it on. If it goes over his head, Horton will attack and try and get it on goal.
It'll be Chifamba to take. Crowell over there for the short corner, steps away. Chifamba there on the top of the 6. It's still alive in the box. Swung through, and finally into safe hands of Kanda.
Once again, it almost worked. Don't expect to see the Crew go away from that anytime soon.
Chance here down the left side for Rai Sato. We do have confirmation that Kai Yamazaki came off the bench at halftime for Matsumoto to give them a little bit of a steadier presence in midfield.
It didn't come off there. He was called offside, but I love that run by Horton, recognizing the space behind the defenders and trying to attack it right away. So many strikers would have checked the ball and tried to combine, but Horton saw where the space was in that moment and went for it.
It looks like Andreas Engelmark, the head coach of this Crew SC squad, has 2 substitutes up and ready to go. As we mentioned, 5 substitutes available, 35-minute halves. And this Crew SC squad and Matsumoto squad will have to turn around and play in 24 hours. So a lot for these coaches to manage. Ball flicked up the line from Tsutsi. Hall out to pressure. No, Hall battling away and ends up putting that ball out.
Good skill by Mashimi, though, going for the Meg.
We have not seen Daniel Coons and Nick Stone, the two center backs, troubled much in this one, Bobby. It seems like they've been able to keep the game in front of them for the most part, and then they've really had a lot of help there from Lemkool in that holding midfield role.
Yeah, those three, Stone, Coons, and Lemkool, have put in the exact performance you want to see from your core right there.
And as I say it now, of course, an opportunity coming here for Matsumoto, and that shot goes wide, but Lemkool letting that run just a little bit too long.
But once okay, you're going to be okay with a shot from 25 yards like that. We haven't seen Coons, Stone, or Lemkool make any sliding tackles, make any last-ditch blocks, and that's what you want to see from your center backs. Proactively defending, thinking and reading the game ahead so that they don't have to make any gorgeous tackles, which are fun to see, but generally indications of something going wrong earlier.
So substitutions coming, and it looks like our goal scorer, O'Brien, is going to be the one to go off. Ethan O'Brien with the goal in the 14th minute to give his team the early lead. Aiden Morris, who we've heard so much about, will be one of the players coming on. And it looks like the second substitution now will come on for Crew SC. And that will be Sebastian Berhalter out of Westerville, Ohio. Has 3 goals and 13 starts in USDA qualifying. So Berhalter looks like we'll go in to that central midfield spot in place of Lemkool as Morris goes into that number 10 role, like-for-like sub with Ethan O'Brien. Bobby, we talked about the need for goals. 2 big-time substitutions now here in the middle of this second half.
Yeah, these substitutions are twofold. One, you want to try and get more goals, so it's always good to bring on good players. But 2, you just want to get Morris and Berhalter enough minutes so that they still feel sharp 24 hours from now.
Berhalter and Morris both had the start in the first game against the Revolution that Horton won with his 57th minute goal.
And of course, the balance to that is you want to get Morris and Berhalter minutes, but you also want to rest Lemkool and O'Brien a little bit and make sure they don't get too many minutes.
Horton here. Quick shot. You got to think maybe he's a guy that you try and cycle out at some point to save his legs. Philip Horton, the goal in the first game, and he's been dominant at times here in the second game.
He really has. What I like from him is his balance as he holds off defenders. So many big target forwards just try and rely on the natural size of their body, and they don't think about the position of the defender behind them or their own personal balance in relation to that defender. And you can see Horton does a nice job of understanding where he is and the defender is in terms of space.
Bobby, what do you think the conversations are like at the dinner table when Sebastian Berhalter doesn't hit that switch cleanly or early enough from that deep midfield position?
I actually bet that his father and Crew SC head coach Greg Berhalter doesn't say much because he understands that it's not a dad's job to do that very often. That he leaves that to the Crew SC Academy coaching staff, and he is just a dad. He pats his son on the back and says he loves him.
Greg Berhalter, a soccer lifer. That guy eats, sleeps, and breathes it. One of the most fascinating members of U.S. soccer to talk to. And, of course, Jay Berhalter, one of the major pieces at the U.S. soccer headquarters for the mothership. This ball goes wide for Wolf. Wolf trying to chase it down and save it from going out for a goal kick, and he's just not able to keep it in.
One thing to keep an eye on in this second half for the Crew is that Lemkool really is the one to sit in front of the back four, and with him coming off and Morris coming on in that spot, there isn't a natural true defensive midfielder. Both Chifamba and Morris will try and get forward, more box-to-box types, and it'll be tougher on the Crew center backs to protect themselves now.
And we talked about that goal differential. The Seattle Sounders beat New England Revolution 3-1, so they now have a +7 goal differential after what was a 6-1 win here. Charging down this right side, the cross played in, knocked down in the box, and that shot directly into the safe arms there of Hansen. Nick Stone's got to feel fortunate right now.
Yeah, Matsumoto clearly not going to make this easy on the Crew reminding Columbus if they lose their focus that Matsumoto is going to be happy to take advantage.
It was Suzuki's run down the right side that opened up the attack for this Matsumoto Yamaga squad. Currently sitting in the bottom 3 spots. Their first team in the Japanese second division, but only 5 games into the season. They finished 8th place last year, just outside the playoff positions. A club that's been in the J-League once in its short history. Crowell has had an active game down the left wing. He gets to the end line now. Chance to put it back across the face of goal. Morris's shot is blocked and then cleared. Chifamba now, he's got Hall off to the right. And his long shot can't find the target.
And we've seen that type of attack from the Crew a few times, and it's so effective because when they get towards the side, from the sideline towards the end line, they take a nice hard cut towards the goal. It's happened 3 or 4 times. Clearly something they work on has been very effective today.
Bobby, would you say Justin Miramesque there?
Not quite, but almost.
Not quite.
I'm not going to give him that much credit.
For sure. I can agree with that. I'm okay with that.
But it's just that little part of technique. It's one thing to say, hey, guys, get wide or get to the end line. But to rehearse that little technique of when you get to a position, get your ball and the body going towards goal and get on that side of the defender so either he fouls you or he has to lay off, and you can then go towards goal.
It's one of the things that you find interesting watching players is the players that are able to find the defender's body and cause the contact on their back rather than creating separation, which then makes it a little bit easier to make the tackle if they're going to go in for it.
Yeah, those little details are important in soccer, and more important as you get up in levels, David. That little inch matters a lot more at the professional level than it does here. So even if we don't notice it here, professional coaches certainly will.
Well, Morris, Berhalter, and Chifamba in that midfield, all 3 U.S. Youth Internationals. As the substitution comes on, it looks like Suzuki's afternoon is done. So 2 substitutes coming on here in Toei Tsunada as well as Kaito Nakamura. Bobby, we've played just south of 20 minutes here in this second half. What have you seen from the performance by these 2 teams here?
We talked about the mental attitude of the Crew and what they're going to be in the second half, and they haven't relaxed, but they also haven't felt the urgency, or it doesn't appear that they've felt the urgency to go get more goals to try and match what the Sounders did at Matsumoto. They've been fine, but they haven't been great, and the question is, come tomorrow when that Sounders game is over, and if they get a draw, will they be mad at themselves for not being great in the second half?
It's tough to say let's go out there and win this game by 5, but Azriel Gonzalez did score in about the 50th minute for the Seattle Sounders. The game then settled down. It was around this period before those final 5 minutes when the substitutes for Seattle really broke the game open in Diaz and Leyva and got those last few goals. You'll see how this Matsumoto team handles those final 10 or so minutes. Maybe Columbus starts to get some easier looks.
And maybe that was something that the Crew coaching staff told their players. Manage these first 10 or 15. Don't let Matsumoto build any confidence, because in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the half, then we can really start to get the goals and make up the goal differential.
And Morris and Berhalter coming off the bench. It looks like 2 more subs are about to come off the bench. One of them is U.S. Youth International Jose Rivas. So even more attacking verve for this Columbus team. Looked like a high boot there against Tsutsui, but no call made. Looks like the other substitute is going to be Malaloon Gumbale, who's a center forward as well. Brings good size. Bobby wouldn't be surprised to see Horton's afternoon done in just a little bit. He has a second goal of the competition. Hall goes clattering to the ground. Noah Hall getting the start in this one. Did not play in the first game, Bobby, at that fullback position. And it was actually an interesting swap here from this team as Anthony Samways shifted in the first game to the second game here right to left back. What do you make of a move like that for a young player, having to adjust, getting comfortable on one side, and then the next game you come back and you're on the other side of the field?
Well, it really gives credit to the philosophy and the system that the Columbus Crew have built. If you're not trying to play long balls, then you don't really need to have the ball on your strong foot. If you're just trying to play possession and keep the ball on the ground, then maybe you're trying to play central more often. Maybe you're trying to play simple passes 5 or 6 yards instead of trying to play great long balls in the air. So through that system is what allows a player to switch sides like that.
Chance here. Satsui trying to keep his feet. Eventually gets to the feet of Hansen. So Horton and Crowell's days are done. We talked a little bit about Horton. What do you make of Crowell and what he was able to do out on the left wing?
Very impressed with him today. Clean on the ball. Good reactions after he lost it. Something we haven't talked a lot about, but has been a big part of the Crew team today.
Hansel scrambles to that one. I think you'd have to say, at least early in that first half, Lemkool and Horton competing for that player man of the match performance. Horton getting the goal, but really dictating play, getting the focus of that defense up front.
And we saw another giveaway there that almost led to a goal for Matsumoto. And we talked about Berhalter and Morris coming into this game, being two of the better players, Crew trying to get more goals in the second half. And we have to be honest and say they haven't been very good. They have not raised the level of the Crew. If anything, they've probably hurt it. And they need to hold themselves accountable to do better, to say we are the better players in this team, and this team needs to be better with us on it.
This Columbus Crew SC squad falling into a little bit of a malaise here in the second half after an active and aggressive first half. Let's see if Rivas and Gumbale can help them get out of that. Good work by Samways to keep possession.
David, it feels like if the Columbus Crew were playing a better team right now, this would not be 2-0. That opponent would have snagged a goal or two due to some of these bad giveaways by the Crew. And here's another one.
And Bobby, how much of it do you put on losing Lemkool in that holding midfield role to dictate play? Chifamba hasn't dropped as far deep to pick up the ball, and there hasn't been that maestro. Obviously, the easy one is the Will Trapp to guide this team through.
Absolutely. I'm always going to give the credit to the defensive midfielder. You know that, David. But you're absolutely right. To someone to have that confidence on the ball, but he was also the one, if you looked at the moments when the ball went out of play, he was the one organizing. He was the one saying, hey, let's go, let's keep going.
Bobby Warshaw, of course, a one-time almost center back, and that's why you love that defensive midfielder, right? Free kick coming now for Matsumoto.
Looking at the body language of the Crew players, they look tired, they look sluggish, they need someone to yell at the teammates right now and get them going.
So the goal scorer, Tsutsi, from game one goes off right before the set piece. Mashima preparing to take it. An interesting time to make that sub here for this Matsumoto team. Matsumoto bringing on Honda. Ball whipped to the back post. No one can get on the end of it, and it goes out, it looks like, for a throw-in. Columbus Crew SC here in Group A of the 2018 Generation Adidas Cup in the Premier Division alongside the Seattle Sounders and New England Revolution. They're leading 2-0 here. 14-minute goal by Ethan O'Brien. A 24th minute goal by Philip Horton. Both of those two players now on the bench as Crew SC. They have a good lead, but Seattle Sounders got a 6-1 win already against Matsumoto in this competition and a 3-1 win against the New England Revolution. Those two will face off tomorrow afternoon. So these two teams now have to push to try and get closer in that goal differential. That game will be at 11:15 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. And we'll have Matsumoto against the New England Revolution on a stream as Sebastian Berhalter puts that ball into the far post. Coons can't get to the end of it. And it's finally cleared off Samways and out.
This is a key moment for the Crew. We need to see what their reaction looks like right here. Matsumoto's throwing deep in their own end. And these are always moments in a game when you can tell a team's urgency, when you can tell their intensity. Do they look prepared and ready to fight to lock the opposition into their own corner? So far, the Crew are in good spots.
Columbus Crew SC with a 2-0 lead. They've looked content with that lead. The coaching staff, it seems like, has made changes to try and push the game, but players on the field haven't had that emphasis, that energy, as Bobby said. We have results coming in from the rest of the fields as well. Monterey, a 2-0 win against Orlando. So they have won Group D. Orlando still in second place. The Houston Dynamo, a penalty kick victory over RSL, so they are in third place in Group D. In Group C, San Jose currently sitting in first place. They 1-0 lead in their first game. Gilbert Fuentes, the MLS homegrown signing, had the lone goal. New York Red Bulls defeated Tigres in penalty kicks late last night as the Red Bulls were stuck in New York because of the weather. Therefore, all the Group C games today will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And stick to MLSsoccer.com for all those results and highlights. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow with streams of those games as well. And then in Group B, the Philadelphia Union right now 2-0, sitting on 6 points. Tijuana just behind them, but they already have the head-to-head victory over Tijuana. So if Philadelphia Union can get at least a draw and a penalty kick loss against Montreal, they will be going through. It looks quite safe for the Union there. The Seattle Sounders, Bobby, we knew were one of the favorites in this division. You've watched a couple teams now, probably watched everyone for a couple minutes here across the board. What have you seen from these Premier Division teams?
The Seattle Sounders definitely put on the best overall performance. When that front four of Serrano and Gonzalez and Robles got going, they were awesome to watch. The Columbus Crew here today had moments when you said, yeah, I see it. I see what they're trying to do. Very impressive at times. The first half of their first game, the Houston Dynamo looked good. It looked like a Dynamo performance, being compact and back, trying to find opportunities on the break. But yeah, David, so far, those 70 minutes from the Sounders were the best.
I think one of the teams you got to tip a cap to right now is Montreal. They got a 2-1 win against Colorado. They fell to Tijuana 2-1 in their last game, but I thought they played well in possession. Good central midfield nucleus for that team and some danger up top. They gave up what I think they would categorize as a soft corner kick as Berhalter turns out of pressure. Puts this ball out into the path of Samways. One-on-one deep in that corner. And it's well defended in the end.
We got to go back to that turn from Berhalter, though. The recognition that both defenders thought he was going to play it backwards. He feels them go forward, and he just turns right out of pressure. You can see why people are so high on him.
Bobby likes a good center midfielder on the half turn. It's as sweet a sound as he can have.
I make no apologies for that, David.
Chifamba stepping forward. What do you make of his performance? One of the youngest players in this tournament, one of the youngest players out there on the field in a central role for the Crew SC.
We haven't seen enough of him today to really make a declaration. What I can say is what I pointed to earlier, and that I hope that he doesn't feel good about his performance, because whether he played well or doesn't play well in these last few minutes, the team hasn't been better with him on it. And too many players let themselves off the hook for this, especially better players at this age around American soccer. But you really have to say, how was the team in relation when I was on the field and when I wasn't? They haven't been better with him on the field so far.
We've seen a couple of U.S. Youth Internationals come on the field for this Columbus Crew SC team. They struggled in qualifying, 5th out of 6 teams in the Central region. Toronto FC and FC Dallas coming in first place, first 2 places in that group. We'll have Toronto FC against River Plate tomorrow on your MLSsoccer.com streams.
I'm excited for that one. We've heard good things about Toronto. We've watched them on tape. We enjoyed it. And then anytime you watch River Plate,
yeah,
is always fun.
Yeah, you don't have to say much more than River Plate sometimes. Makes it very simple. Columbus Crew SC knocking it around here in the 65th minute of play, leading 2-0 through those 2 first-half goals. You have to say Matsumoto's been the more dangerous team here in the second half, but they haven't been able to find the breakthrough.
Stone has been fantastic for the Crew. Anytime Matsumoto has gotten a little of a sliver opportunity, here comes Stone reading the play and stepping in before it become too much.
Nick Stone was a best 11 in their conference in USDA play last year. Goombele trying to chase that one. He's in an offside position. There are 4 officials here today. A pretty simple match for them. And Lucas Spala, his 2 assistant referees, and John Krill and Ian McKay and Natalie Simon. Our 4th official. This a big tournament for referees as well. Referees that are on the border of being MLS refs and full-time professionals, getting the opportunity to come down here and be watched by the pro board and the pro instructors as well.
Dave, you know what just occurred to me, which we should probably apologize for? If they tie the Sounders in the last group game, it goes to penalty kicks. It doesn't go to goal differential, does it? If you win penalty kicks, you get 2 points. If you lose penalty kicks, you get 1 point.
You are correct.
It's a rare system. They have a GA Cup.
You are correct.
So here we are. We're giving the Columbus Crew a hard time for losing focus, and here we are losing focus ourselves. So you can excuse them for not feeling too much urgency. Yeah. Nonetheless, they haven't been great in the second half, and they should have been better. But they do not need to go for the goal differential.
No, they do not. Bobby, you've absolutely blown my mind right now.
To repeat that, because it's a rare thing they do here at GA Cup, every game that's a draw goes to penalty kicks. If you win the penalty kicks, you get 2 points. If you're the losing side in the penalty kicks, you get 1 point from that game. So if the Crew tie, regardless of goal differential,
they'd have to win a penalty kick, and the winner of that penalty kick would go through.
Right. But either way, it comes down to penalty kicks.
As either team with a win would move to 9 points in group play, and therefore win the group. A chance now in on goal. Cut back, but no one there to find it. Goombele trying to find a teammate. First dangerous play we've seen over the last 5 minutes. So the Columbus Crew SC will face off against Seattle Sounders. Bobby, how do you see those 2 teams matching up? Because we've seen them both play Matsumoto here, and it's a different matchup. Matsumoto, a team that's going to sit back more, doesn't have the individual quality to maybe break you down. How do you see the matchup between a Columbus team possession base and a Seattle team with some of the best individuals here?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that if Columbus gives as many balls away in the midfield in the back third as they did today, that Gonzalez and Serrano are going to destroy them and put those away. But it does feel like Columbus has the ability to get on the ball and possess and dictate the game. So it really will come down to how clean Lemcole, Morris, and Berhalter are in the middle of the field and how much they can dictate the rhythm of the game and not make mistakes.
Corner kick coming here for Matsumoto Yamaga. Ball floated in, headed away by the Crew. Columbus Crew SC here, and they're black and gold. Going to put their flag up. It was a tough round of qualifying for them, but they have turned around and played fantastic so far here at the Generation Adidas Cup. Of course, this is the second day of coverage. We got games all of tomorrow here at the Toyota Soccer Center, as the winner of each group will move up to play in the semifinals in the big stadium over at Toyota Stadium. We'll have the semifinals on Thursday and the 2 championship games on Saturday as well. The Colorado Rapids and Club Tijuana will face off, in the Philadelphia Union and Montreal Impact will play at 9 a.m. tomorrow simultaneously to close out that group. As we said, the Union, all they need to do is tie, and they're through no matter what. This group will finish at 11:15, as Seattle Sounders and Columbus will face off head-to-head. And as Bobby said, whoever gets the result, if this one stands, in that one, whether it's a win in regulation or a win in penalty kicks, will go through. And then you look at the final group in Orlando City and the Houston Dynamo facing off, as RSL will play against Monterrey, who are already through to the next round, first place in that group. And of course, we've got Tigres in San Jose and New York Red Bulls and Chicago Fire, which are currently listed to play on Tuesday. But the weather will control whether or not that one will be possible. Hansen punches away. Second volley comes in. May not even cross that end line. You can see the wind there. Bobby, hold that one up.
Hansen has had 3 or 4 balls up in the wind. He's dealt with them all well today.
And of course, we've got more streams coming your way later today. We've still got some big matchups between NYCFC and Real Madrid. Hansen comes sliding out once again. Continuing to put in a solid shift here as we enter stoppage time. It was a good, dangerous opportunity for Matsumoto. Going from left to right there. Finding a hole in the defense. Massima coming forward from his left back spot. Can't create an opening. It'll be another corner kick coming here for Matsumoto, who you have to say steadied themselves after the first game. A shaky first half. They've been every bit as good as Columbus here in the second.
Yeah, full credit to them. They could have folded. They decided not to. They've kept fighting. They've made this game fun and interesting through the end.
Ball clipped in. Hansen can't get to the punch. He's fortunate to see that ball go wide of the post.
He was fortunate. I was fortunate. I was just praising him for his command of the area, and he got beat to that one.
Yeah, I think all the players here are getting used to that one, Bobby, the death curse that is. Mr. Warshaw.
I heard around the complex they were calling it the Goss curse.
Potentially.
They've got a name for it.
Otherwise known as the Gospel, which is how I like it to be referred to. Rivas putting pressure on here, headed back to the goalkeeper, and Rivas just can't reach it.
Rivas needed to bump there. He didn't want to go for the ball. He needed to bump the defender, put him off balance. That was how he was going to get to that.
This ball spiraling out just towards us, as Ben, the research bear, is able to get his first registered touch of the tournament. That'll be on Ortec's website later on.
Completed pass for sure.
Noah Hall here stepping in to the lineup after being on the bench the first game. Morris, the opposite. Looking to get down into the corner and waste some clock. This one goes off Wolf's shin guard.
And good intelligence here by both Berhalter and Wolf to close that space behind Morris. A little detail that shows their intelligence.
Well, this Columbus Crew SC team did everything they wanted to. A 14th-minute goal by Ethan O'Brien, a 26th-minute goal by Philip Horton gives them a 2-0 lead heading into halftime, and they were able to stay in control in the second half and keep Matsumoto Yamaga off the score sheet for a 2-0 win. Bobby, you look at those 2 goals, this performance overall from Columbus Crew SC, you can say very professional, and especially in that first half, the exact philosophy that they want to play with.
Yeah, definitely. The Crew were great in the first half. They did what they had to do. They got the result. They should definitely be upset with themselves about the second half and losing focus a little bit, but that's something I don't blame them for. It happens to youth players and professional players. At the end of the day, they got the win. They kept players healthy. They kept players fresh to now have the big game against the Sounders tomorrow.
We are not even close to done here today on MLSsoccer.com. We've got NYCFC against Real Madrid coming up at 3:45 Central Time, 4:45 Eastern Time, and FC Dallas Pachuca coming up this afternoon as well here on Field 4. Thanks so much for watching, and stick to MLSsoccer.com for all of your Generation Adidas Cup coverage.